All right. So a completely unscheduled, unplanned live stream. So let's see if someone comes aboard. Didn't announce it anywhere. Just had some time on my hands. So yeah, somebody just came in. And yeah, let's see what happens. Let's be a bit spontaneous here, right? Okay, we've got 4 people on board. Yeah, as per usual, let me know if the audio is okay. Good morning. Yeah, good morning. Let me know if the audio is okay. Let me know if the video is okay. And yeah, good. So, like I said, this is a completely unplanned, unscheduled live stream. Just having some fun here. So you guys can basically ask me anything you want, right? And yeah, we'll go from there. No topic. Well, maybe 3D might work, but any question you might have, right? I'll give it a minute so a couple of folks can come in, and yeah, hopefully you are all doing well in this crazy world. And yeah, give me some questions, guys. Okay, audio is okay, video is okay, great. So yeah, let me know any questions at all. Let's see. Okay, cool. So the freelancing series, yeah, that's kind of a thing, right? I don't know if all of you heard about it, but I decided to do a 10-part series on how to become a freelance artist. So I'm going to be covering everything, the sales process, contracting, negotiating, how to set up your business, how to build your network, personal branding, all of that stuff, right? And yeah, it's not the typical video that I do as far as, modeling and so forth. But hopefully it's helpful for you guys. And yeah, I've just recorded the 3rd video. The next one is going up on Monday. And yeah, we'll see it from there. Okay, cool. Let's see. What kind of questions do we got? All right. Let's see. Growth for an animator. Can you be a bit more specific? Hey, from Mexico. Hi. Oh, Mexico is awesome. Welcome. Create a car model. Okay, so let me explain something here, okay? And this is kind of an interesting question. I get a lot of questions from people saying, model a car, model a house, model a spaceship, whatever, right? Now, I know there are a lot of people on YouTube that do this. That's not what my channel is about. My idea is I want to teach people how to model in 3D. So I talk about techniques and methods, right? What's the point of me modeling a car? I mean, that's going to be a time-lapse video because you can't model a car in 20 minutes, right? It's going to be a time-lapse video that's going to go way too fast. You're not explaining anything. And sure, you will end up with a cool car, right? But the whole idea is to bring across knowledge. That's what my videos are about. That's why I don't do full cars, why I don't do full spaceships and so forth. What I want is to create things that will help you to progress as a 3D artist, okay? Let's see. What's my experience as 3D asset seller? Can it be a full-time job? It can. I know of people. I actually know a lady that she makes hair. So like what I don't have, right? Hair, like wigs in 3D. She sells them online, and they are used by people in what's that thing called, Second Life and so forth. She makes a full-time living doing that. The tip that I would give, though, is if you are going to pursue this, keep in mind that it's best to have a specialty because you want to create a following. You want to have return customers, right? If everybody's going to buy from you once, at some point you're going to run out of clients. So you want repeat customers. How are you going to get repeat customers? by making sure that you are the best. Now, how do you become the best? By focusing on one thing. There are people on TurboSquid, for example, they do nothing else but make plated food, right? Plates of food, that's it. Other people will make kitchen faucets, all sorts of different faucets, right? So that's kind of the thing you need to think about. But yes, it is possible. And I heard people making, 6 figures a year. So, excuse me. Sorry. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question. Let's see. I've heard that studios nowadays use game engines like Unreal in series like The Mandalorian. How does that work? Well, the thing is this. If you look at the difference between, let's say, games and movies, okay? Now, movies, that is sequential rendering. So that means that you have a frame and then you render the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one. You put it in line and you have a motion, right? So you got a movie. The thing is, once every frame is rendered, it's set in stone, it's fixed, okay? The typical thing with game engines is that's not the case, because if you're playing a game, you as the player decide to go left or right, and as you do so, that game engine will render that specific frame. That's why the poly count is always so important in games. However, if you make a character in a game engine and you let that character do a predefined thing, you're basically having an actor running around in the scene. And if you record that gameplay, you kind of have the same thing, right? So why would they do that? Well, for one reason, because game engines are very powerful. You can create environments and so forth and so on. And it's, in that sense, easier because less light setup, less scene setup, and so forth. I wouldn't say it's the future per se, but it's possible. So let me know if that answers your question, okay? So we have some people from India. Namaste. Let's see. Hey, Mike. Hey, how are you? We got somebody else from Mexico. Cool. I can't open my 2020 animation files in 2016. Yeah, I actually just sent you a comment because you left a comment on one of my videos. You can't open a my 2020 file in 2016 because it's not backwards compatible, right? Let's see. Hard surface modeling is really hard to learn. Oh, it's a question apparently. I want to learn how to do it. Okay. So first of all, what is hard surface modeling for those of you who don't know? Because not everybody has the same definition of that, okay? Basically, if you model, let's say, a table, that's a hard surface model. If you model, let's say, a dog, that's an organic model. So some people say anything that's living, like a person or a character or an animal, that's organic. Anything else is hard surface. Not necessarily true, because if you have a stylized car, let's say in Pixar's movie, what's it called? Car, yeah. You see the car moving and talking and deforming and so forth. So it's kind of organic. So that makes it hard to define one or the other. I would say that hard surface modeling is easier than organic modeling, to be honest. And how would you learn that? Follow tutorials, right? Go to classes, read books, get knowledge wherever you can, right? Okay, let's see what else. I noticed most animators get into the game industry instead of film and television. Why is that? I don't know, because that is not my experience at all. I really don't know any animators in the game industry. I know animators that also work in the game industry, but the primary jobs for animators, to my knowledge, is not in the game industry, right? But maybe it's because what I just explained with, studios now using game engines. Could be. Let's see. Hey, Mike, I love designing robot and new creatures from okay, but I lack 2D skills to create concept art. Without the 2D reference, I struggle to model. Any tips? Yes. Okay. I get this question a lot. Do you need to have drawing skills, 2D skills, in order to become a good 3D artist, right? No, you don't. I mean, if you create a reference yourself by painting it or drawing it or whatever, that's helpful if you're modeling something that doesn't exist, right? If you're going to have to model a fantasy character that doesn't exist, you're going to have some kind of reference, right? At some point, you can have the reference in your head. If you know in your head what it's going to look like, why do you need a reference, right? Now, you're saying that you're struggling. I assume when you say that, the struggle is towards scale and proportion. Arms are too long, legs are too thick, that kind of thing, right? Now, the workaround for that is to study the principles of drawing. It doesn't mean you have to actually know how to draw, but there are a lot of rules in drawing, especially when you draw people, as to ratio. So, for example, if you take 8 basketballs and you stack them on top of each other, that's a proportion of a human body, where the top one would be the head, right? And then you would have a number, what should be the section of the main body, and then a number for the legs and so forth. If you use that reference, you know exactly what the proportions are. So I would look into drawing theory, okay? Let's see. I love design robot. Okay. Will Blender take over in the future? No, I don't think so. I don't think so, for the simple reason that although Blender's fine, I mean, you got Maya, you got 3ds Max, Blender, Cinema 4D, and all that. It's fine. The reason why I think it won't is because Blender is free, as you know. Companies like Autodesk work with industry partners to develop technology, and that involves a lot of money, right? They work on, for example, ray trace rendering. Autodesk had a collaboration with NVIDIA. They work directly with Dell and other companies. The money that's involved there helps them to do all this. The whole ray trace rendering thing, for example, took years to develop. Now, Blender doesn't make money per se, right? So where's that investment coming from? So that's just my personal opinion, but I don't think that's going to happen. How can I make water wave animation with speedboat interaction? Check my channel. I did multiple videos on how to create oceans, how to create waves, how to have objects float in water, and I actually literally did a video on how to have a speedboat interaction in waves. Okay, so yeah, check that out. Hail and well met, Gray Walker. Thank you. What does usually mean by 3D generalist in terms of job scope? I saw that in ArtStation job. Okay, so I mean, a generalist is basically a 3D artist that will do anything they need to do. Now, anything is a bit of a stretch because you cannot expect a generalist to know everything. But basically, a generalist is a 3D artist that knows a little bit about everything, right? I mean, they're not going to ask you to do very specific specialist work, but most studios cannot afford to hire specialists, okay? So they will want people that they can use for all sorts of things. And that's typically what they mean by generalists. Let's see, can I model a character only using Autodesk Maya? Of course. Let's see, what else? Mike, can you please make a video about the technical side of Maya? Things like what resources it uses and more hardware-related stuff. I could, but that would be a very short video because the hardware specs involved in working in Maya, you can find it on the Autodesk site, and that's basically 3 lines of text that will explain everything. So I don't know what other technical information you would want to have, but there's not really a lot to say about it. There's a minimum requirement to run it, and anything above that is basically gravy, right? Let's see. Hi from Ukraine. If we are sharing this? If we are sharing this, and if we are sharing what? Not sure what you mean. Your videos help me a lot. Thank you so much. Well, thank you for watching them. Is photogrammetry going to replace 3D modeling? I don't know. I think it will never replace it completely. I get this question a lot as well. You know, will we be out of a job and so forth? I don't think so, because this technology allows you to create a model based on an existing object. Now, keep in mind that a huge portion of the industry is related to non-existing objects. I mean, we're talking about fantasy creatures. We're talking about sci-fi related vehicles and so forth. There's no way to go from concept art to 3D by scanning or, photogrammetry, right? So I'm not too concerned about that. Will it be used in the industry for like, sports shoes and stuff like that? Sure. But up until now, the quality is really bad and everything needs to be remeshed and cleaned up and so forth. So I think it will be a long time. Yeah. Let's see, Pradeep Patel. Hey, Mike, I learned from your tutorials. I'm getting freelance work. You are my guru. Well, thank you so much. That's cool. Good news. Let's see, Gray saying, I'm really struggling with ZBrush. Just can't get it. It seriously rips my knitting. I know. ZBrush is fantastically horrible, right? ZBrush is awesome, but it's so hard to understand for the simple reason that the user interface is so extremely unlogical. Now, why is that, right? The reason is this. ZBrush was never created for 3D artists to begin with. ZBrush was created for actual sculptors that work with clay and work with marble and so forth. They created this software so they could, basically create a concept 3D sculpt without having to go out and buy marble or whatever, right? And then later on, they adapted it and moved towards the 3D industry. So if you look at all the different programs, 3ds Max and Maya and Blender, and they all have similarities. And then the one thing that's completely different is ZBrush, right? So yeah, that's it. And my advice to you would be, and that's what I did, is try to eliminate everything that you don't absolutely need to have. Start extremely simple. How to make a cube, how to make a sphere. Don't worry about any of that, right? And if for whatever reason you just can't get it, there are other software applications now that have better and better sculpting setups, right? I mean, there's a lot of advancement in Maya. You can do sculpt work in Maya as well now, in 3D Code and in other programs. If you're a character modeler, I would suggest you definitely need to learn ZBrush. But if you're a prop modeler and you only use ZBrush to add little details like grooves and dents and that kind of thing, you can do all of that in Maya, right? Okay. Let's see. UV is saying, I'm a 3D artist, specialize in architectural design and visualization from India. Do I have a future in this field? I definitely think so. I think that is a very important job role, and it's being used more and more and more. And I know people that work in this industry, and it's booming, okay? Okay, Dan's question, I already answered that one. Full car modeling, we talked about that. And yeah, talked about that. Your friend Alexandro, cool. ZBrush is better than Blender. I mean, like sculpting. Sculpting wise, I mean, ZBrush is king, no doubt. It's better than anything. It's just that, the user interface is complicated, right? Do I know how to duplicate the loop cut tool? Why would you want to duplicate a tool? I don't understand the question. Sorry. Sumitidov, please take care of yourself in this pandemic. Yes, I hope you all do that. Thank you so much. I don't know if you guys know this, but this whole thing started basically somewhere in February this year. I actually had Corona in March, right? So it took me a long time to recover, almost 6 months. But yeah, it was really, really bad. So be careful, yeah? Azure saying, thank you for your work with a cool smiley. Thank you so much. Hello, sir. I have one doubt. Okay, that's too bad. Maybe you can tell me what the doubt is, and then I can answer it. How can you make money with Maya? By doing 3D work and selling models or selling your work and so forth. Okay. Let's see. Excited for the 10 video series. Thanks for this. Yes, you're very welcome. I mean, I'm getting kind of mixed feedback on it, right? And like I said, that helps me to be very specific with my channel. I've always intended my channel as a place to learn, right? So I'm not concerned about showing off my skills. I'm more concerned about you growing yours, right? So my videos focus on sharing that knowledge. I'm getting feedback from people saying, hey, make this fantastic, fancy model to prove that you can do it. Well, I don't need to prove anything. I just want to help you guys, right? So that's why I'm doing these 10 videos. If it's helpful for you to move forward in your career as a 3D artist and make some money doing so, then it's mission accomplished, okay? Let's see, thank you. Is it necessary to combine the whole character mesh to rig and animate? Can meshes overlap? Trying to figure out what you mean here. Okay, so do you need to combine the character mesh to the rig? Yes, you do. I mean, otherwise you're animating the rig and not the character, right? So you need to do that. Can meshes overlap? Do you mean overlap as in clothing on top of a character, or do you mean meshes literally cutting into each other, right? Okay, let's see. Jay saying, how am I doing? I'm doing fine. Which is better, 3ds Max or Cinema 4D? The one that you feel most comfortable with. I would say 3ds Max is used more, but there's nothing wrong with Cinema 4D. Any tips on animating and working on huge scenes, millions of polygons, multiple textures and meshes? Yes. First of all, when you are working on big things, it's always very, very important to plan, right? Make a schedule, write it down, because you're going to do a lot of file management, right? And then the second thing is build an asset library. Now, what do I mean? Let's say I have a room with furniture and chairs and tables and all that kind of stuff, right? What I'll do is I'll make a chair, right? I'll save out the chair with all the texture files and everything else. And then I'll replace the chair with a simple cube. And I'll put that in my scene. As a reminder, that's where the chair goes, right? It's going to be very low poly. I got the chair saved somewhere else, so that's okay. And once my scene is done, I can bring everything in. That way I can still work fast, right? Don't have to worry about too much polygons in my scene and so forth, right? Let me know if that helps. Oh, the katana is your favorite, huh? Cool. Okay, Smith's saying, please give answer. Let's see, your question was, is it necessary? Okay, I just answered that, all right. What are the best Arnold settings? I did a video on that where I did Arnold render settings in Maya for realistic renders. Keep in mind that realistic renders is not only related to your render settings, but very much so related to your light settings, your texture settings, and so forth, yeah? Is it better to be a 3D generalist or a specialist? Well, that's kind of an easy answer. I mean, if you are a specialist and you are so good that you can make it a full-time job, you don't need to be a generalist, right? From a risk management perspective, I would definitely make sure that I know more than just my specialty. Okay, please make a video on character modeling. I made individual videos on character-related topics. I'm personally not a character modeler. I'm a prop modeler, but I did videos on hands and ears and stuff like that, and basically on overall techniques relevant for character modeling. Okay, and again, I'm not going to do a time-lapse video where I crunch 6 hours into a 10-minute video because I don't think that's helpful, right? Arnold render not working. Please let me know why. Which application do you think will help a starter to become a 3D artist? Anything you're comfortable with. You can start in Blender, you can start in Maya, you can start in 3ds Max. It doesn't really matter that much. It kind of depends on what direction you want to go at some point. I mean, if you already know that you want to go, let's say, towards, I don't know, architecture, maybe you want to consider 3ds Max. If you are going to go towards animation, I would consider Maya. If you cannot afford these software programs and you want to work with something that's free, then obviously you would work with Blender, okay? Let's see. So the generalist specialist question, I just covered that. Please make a video to how to animate lips. That's related to that character stuff. We just talked about that. Let's see. How can I stay committed to work on my project on a regular basis? I have found out starting is always the hardest part, but more often than not, it's easier to scroll down social media than working. Yeah. Okay. So basically what you're saying is, how do I make sure I don't get distracted? Okay. Now, if you want to be a full-time 3D artist, you need to think about this because it will consume all your time. It's not an easy way to make a living. Trust me, there are easier ways. And if you're not dedicated to the extent that you want to spend every free minute you have, I would probably reconsider. You almost have to be addicted to 3D, right? Maybe you are doing other stuff because you're not into what you're modeling, or you don't have a real purpose for modeling that specific piece, right? My tip to you would be this. Try and create something from scratch. What I mean is come up with something that's completely original, make a little sketch on a piece of paper, then block it out in rough shapes, and then go through the entire process every step of the way, which basically means you're creating something from nothing. And that usually is very fulfilling. Well, for me anyway, right? So give that a try. Let's see, we got Fiona. Hey, Mike, I'm trying to get into the FX industry, but one, I'm not sure how to break into it since the pandemic. Two, what else could I get better at to work in cities in Asia? All right. Okay. Oh, there's more. Three, what do you do when you feel stuck on multiple projects, tired of them, and you just don't even seem to finish? Okay, a lot of questions. Okay, so the FX industry, basically the leading software nowadays, I would say, is Houdini. So if you are skilled in Houdini, that is definitely helpful. What about the pandemic? Well, for 3D artists in general, you're creating awareness for your work is done online anyway, right? So the physical presence is typically not needed for that. What I would do is I would create an online presence more in a business-related sense. So of course you got a portfolio, but become a member of forum groups, get into LinkedIn, connect with people, explain to them what your added value is, and go from there, right? Okay, let's see. Monet Jordan, let's see. Sorry, I guess my question is the most asked question ever, but is it realistic to have a 3D career when you pick up 3D at age 28? I know you might be annoyed by that question. I'm not annoyed at all by the question, not at all. 28 is not old. I mean, a lot of people seem to think you have to be 18 or something to get into the 3D world. That's not true at all. I've seen people starting at 40, starting at 50. There is actually one advantage of being older, right? And it kind of depends on what type of work you do. I mean, if you're 20 and you get an internship at a studio, right? What you spend the first years doing is basically gaining work experience and also life experience. What a lot of people seem to forget is when you're dealing with other people in the studio, you're in a pipeline, you're in a team, right? So how do you work with other people? How is that interaction? Does that work for you? Does that work for them? And so forth. So when you get older, you have more people experience, typically, right? People tend to take you more seriously, although that's not always fair because there are, of course, many young people that are very skilled, right? But that's just the way it is. And yeah, especially in Asia, I would say. So that's what I would focus on. Let's see here. Yeah, so 28 is fine. I'm from India and investing fees in PC and many more things. And if I go for a job after studies, I get $403 per month. Very underpaid. What do you do if you were in my place? I don't know. I can't answer that question for you because that's such a specific local situation. Keep in mind, though, when you look at money made per month, it's related to money spent per month, right? I mean, sure, it's not a lot of money compared to other countries, but the cost of living is probably low as well, right? I mean, I know people in New York City, right? They make $2,000 a week, but they pay $6,000 or $7,000 rent, right? So, you know, it all depends. What would you do if you were in my place? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. What about Houdini? We talked about that. Houdini is awesome. If you're in the FX industry, that's a must to understand. And even if you're not, if you can master it, I would certainly go for it. Best settings for materials and lighting. That depends completely on what you're making. Is it a character? Is it a prop? Is it an environment? Is it a building? Completely depending on what you're modeling. The tip that I can give you, though, is study real life scenarios. When you're sitting in a room, any room, if it's a building or a house or whatever, look at where the light's coming from. Is it internal light, like practical lights, like light on the ceiling and so forth? Is it light coming through the window, through the door? And try to mimic these things in your settings, and that will make your light setup better, right? As a beginner, should I only offer only a specific type of model in the marketplace to be expert? For example, should I offer only bottle or jar type modeling? Okay, well, the thing is, you're saying you're a beginner, and then you're saying, should I do one specific type of model to be an expert? Well, if you're a beginner, you're not an expert, right? Now, keep in mind that if you keep models simple, let's say stylized, low poly models, right? I don't know, for example, a table, right? If you get a low poly table made by an expert and a low poly table made by a beginner, they're not that different because it's not that hard, right? That's the area where you can compete. If you go towards models that are much more complex, people will notice that you don't have those skills just yet, okay? Can I make a cloth simulation tutorial in Blender? I cannot because I'm not doing Blender videos anymore. I'm sorry. Okay, cloth mesh overlap for character. Yeah, so basically that's related to that question where you got clothing on top of a character. Yes, you can do that, no problem. Can I please make a tutorial video on normal specular displacement map used in Hypershade without any other texturing software than Maya? I did. Check my channel. Keep in mind, I did almost 1,100 videos so far. Yeah. How can you smooth a mesh after you Boolean a text? Well, first of all, I would never Boolean a text. to be honest. So how do you smooth it after that? If you Boolean a text, it's going to look horrible, most likely. Is there any place where new artists can collaborate with other newer artists where they can do a large-scale project for experience? Good question. Hang on. I'll get a link for you. 1 second. Okay, so here is a link. This is a link to my Hangout group on YouTube, not YouTube, on Facebook, with 4,100 3D artists. And they talk about all sorts of things. They share knowledge, they work together, they do projects together, and you are all invited. Okay, so it's the link down there. Okay, cool. Let's see, where are we at? Okay, so that's that. Fiona, thanks. You're very welcome. Thanks for picking up the question, of course. Arnold Render not working.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Sorry about that. My Google was talking. Which software is good for texturing and rendering? Oh, there's so many. I mean, I like Substance Painter for texturing, and a lot of people do. And rendering, I mean, you can use Arnold, you can use RenderMan, you can use Redshift, you can use Corona. Yeah, that's a thing. So many different types. It's kind of like asking, you know, what car should I buy? I mean, there's a million answers to that. Thoughts on building a render farm or a render station as a full-time freelance artist? Okay. Animated films. Okay. Now, what I would do is I would do a cost calculation analysis, right? Let me explain. You are probably aware of render farms. And for those of you who are not, you basically have companies that have thousands of servers, basically, right? You send your file to them, they render it for you, you pay them, and they send it back, right? Now, I know a lot of freelance artists that have their own render farm, but keep in mind that this is very, very expensive. A friend of mine has a render farm in his home office, an independent freelance artist, cost him something like 30,000 euros, right? Now, the problem there is within a matter of maybe 2 years, the graphic cards you're using, they are going to be out of date and you're going to have to upgrade them. So you would need to make a ridiculous amount of money in order to be able to upgrade that every time, right? So depending on the type of work you do, depending on how long you would be able to use it, depending on what's sufficient enough for you to do your job, I would do a calculation. Should I buy render time or should I invest in hardware, right? And the third alternative, which is an option as a freelance artist, think about leasing it, right? So basically renting it. Let's see, what else? Render farm, okay. I just started 3D and recently met a master's degree student on my campus. His work was, well, it was horrible. He even highlighted that he was character artist, yet his work was really bad. Okay. Okay. Let me compare this, right? So if you, let's say you've been driving a car for 20 years, right? And I've been driving a car for a year. Your argument might be, well, listen, I'm way better than you because I've been driving for 20 years. Well, that you've been driving for 20 years doesn't mean that you've been driving well for 20 years. You could suck at it, right? And maybe I'm very talented and I've been driving for a year and I'm much better than you are. So the fact that somebody went through classes and actually made it doesn't make that person a good artist. This ties into the question that I get a lot. Do you need a degree to get hired? No, you don't. Does it help? Of course, because it's some kind of reference. Okay, I got my bachelor's, I got my master's, therefore I'm good. However, at the end of the day, it's about your work. Your work needs to be good, right? So if you see that work and you think it's horrible, that doesn't mean your work will be horrible, right? It has nothing to do with you. You don't compare yourself with others. You compare yourself with yourself last week, last month, last year. That's how you progress, right? How long does it take to become a somewhat productive, usable 3D modeler? If you mean in the sense that you get paid for it, whatever that amount may be, let's say, selling some stuff online or whatnot, usually you can start to sell some stuff online within maybe 6 months. You can start to make a little bit more money within 2 years or so. Usually if you start from scratch and you know absolutely nothing, before you can get a job anywhere as a junior artist, maybe 3 years, 4 years. Let's see, you just said that living as 3D artist is not easy. Please expand your point of view and explain what you mean. I feel like it's important. Oh, it's very important. That's why I'm doing this 10-part video series, right? I talk to a lot of 3D artists, as you know, right? And what I get all the time is people say, I spent so much time in Maya and so much time in Blender and so much time in ZBrush. I can't find a job. I can't make money. I'm struggling. What should I do? And so forth. The thing is, the whole creative aspect, so knowing 3D, right, is maybe 20% of your job, right? All the other things are, how do I get clients? How do I set up a contract? How do I get quotations? How do I negotiate? How do I reserve money? What about taxes? What about registration? What about, all of these things? They're typically not covered or covered well when you're in school, right? And it's essential if you want to work as a freelance artist. Even if you're not working as a freelance artist, even if you're working as a studio artist, people think, well, hey, I'm an employee, right? What do I care? I show up for work, I do my thing, I get paid, I go home. The thing is this, that will not cut it because you have a lot of competition. There are thousands and hundreds of thousands of 3D artists out there, right? Now, let's say you and I are co-workers. We're working at a studio together, right? And our boss comes up and says, hey, model this table, right? And we're both modeling this table. Now, you just go and say, okay, I got the whole day to do this. I'll do it. At the end of the day, I'm going to go home. I've made my money, and he got his table, right? I'm going to think about this and say, listen, boss, come over here. What if we change this and we change that and we use that we did last week and so forth and so on? We can complete this table in an hour. So I got 7 hours left to do something else for you, right? That is life experience, work experience, business experience. Suddenly, me as a 3D artist become much more valuable to my boss than you. And you might even be a better 3D artist, right? So that's why it's complicated. Let me know if this answers your question, because this is kind of important, like you said, right? Let's see, I'm having low-end PC, so my Maya lags, and if I do work in simulations and rendering, so what can I do? Okay, not a lot, really. I mean, if you want to run simulations, yeah, you need a certain, level of system specs to do so. Of course, you can try to make your systems less complex. Or what you can do is, instead of having let's say a 5-minute render, what you can do is try to kind of, make it into several pieces. For example, let's say you have an explosion with smoke and fire and sparks, right? And you're simulating that. It's really heavy on your system. So what you can do is split it into 3 things. First, you render the smoke, then you render the explosion, then you render the sparks, and then you add the footage together later. That kind of stuff, yeah? How much would you earn for just a modeling, retopology, and texturing work? First of all, what kind of model is it, right? Is it a cube, or is it a 20 million polygon character, right? I mean, that's a huge, huge difference. The texturing, same thing. Is it PBR textured? Is it realistic texturing? Is it stylized? There's no way for me to answer this. This can be anything from $50 to $50,000, right? No way to say that. How can you engrave a text in a mesh? You can use alpha stamps for that, or a normal map, right? Let's see, hey Mike, I'm a concept artist, not really 3D guy. I want to be a hard surface concept designer. So how good I need to get for the 3D skill? Do I need to learn UV texturing, etc.? Thanks a lot. Okay, my question really would be, why do you want to be a hard surface concept designer? Because the traditional concept work is much more sought after. I mean, there are a lot more 3D people than concept people, to be honest, right? And I'm kind of wondering why you would want to pursue that. However, to answer your question, if you do pursue that, yes, you would need to have those skills. Let's see, for the collaborate question, I don't have Facebook. Do I have an Instagram group? I have an Instagram page, not a group though. And yeah, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, my group is on Facebook, and that's the only one I have. Sorry. Is there a way or tool to project a curve made on an orthographic view to a surface? Yes, and I actually literally did a video on that, how to project a curve on an orthographic surface, view surface, yeah. I created 3D set, but our main issue was time. Renders were taking so long, and we had lesser time, and other renders were not able to deliver the results. We got by Arnold. Any tips for that? Basically what I just said, try to either shorten the sequences that you're rendering, or split it into layers and render the individual layers, or maybe consider outsourcing it to a render firm, which of course costs money, right? Let's see, what is the software to render a full video or an image? Okay. Not sure what you mean. There are tons. Yeah, I can't answer that question. I mean, there are tons of software, there are tons of renderers, and I don't know what the image is or what the question is, or the model is. Let's see, Substance Painter used in industry. Absolutely. Substance Painter is, I would say, number one or close to number one. Yeah. Okay, let's see, what else? Using one of your videos in a college project. Okay, that's cool. Can you elaborate on that? Would like to know. Let's see. Thank you. Your answer about living as a 3D artist was sufficient. Okay, cool. Are you saving these videos for us to watch later on YouTube? Unfortunately not, Cosmo. The live streams are free when they are live. However, I have patrons that support my channel, and I have channel members that support my channel, and they want something in return, right? So what they get is some perks, and one of the perks is they get the exclusive right to have playback on live streams. So when they're actually online, like right now, it's available to everyone. After that, it's only available to them. Sorry. Let's see. As a character artist, how much should I charge for a single realistic character with casual clothing and texturing? Again, same thing. Where do you live? What are the local costs? How complex is the model? It's impossible to say. Let's see. Mike, you just mentioned a couple of minutes ago about creating a public business profile and show the value of my art. Could you please explain why this is so important? YouTube text count is too low. Okay, well, the thing is this. In the business world, right? And if you're working as a freelance artist, you are moving in the business world, right? Your clients are companies. Now, people think, okay, movie companies and game studios. No, you have people that make furniture, people that make kitchens, people that build homes, all of these kind of traditional type companies. They are using the skills of 3D artists, right? But they don't know 3D artists because they build kitchens, right? So how do you get involved with people that build kitchens so you can model it for them and make money? You need to get in touch with people that make kitchens. So you create a LinkedIn profile. That's where the business folks go, and you make a profile and you post regularly on things you create, and you network with these people and link up with these people. And that's how you build a network. Okay. Let's see. Is there a certain part of 3D skills that is in demand, such as texturing or FX? Yes. A couple of things. One is lighting artists. Lighting is complicated, but very, very important. So lighting skills, very, very important. FX, also very important. And as far as animating is concerned, what people are looking for now is not only animators, because good animators are rare, but animators that are skilled in animating micro expressions. So tiny, tiny facial movements, right? How to get a job in studio. Build a network, get your work out there, get recognized, get known, and slowly but surely build on that until you meet the right people, until you get your big break, okay? Love your channel. Thank you very much for all your videos. You are very welcome. Did you use ZBrush? Yes. Unreal Engine 5 is releasing next year. Smoothly run the Unreal Engine 5 demo. We require RTX 2070 Super. So which graphic card should I go for developing inside the engine? The one you can afford. I know that's kind of a lame answer, but it's a numbers game. I mean, there's a minimal requirement, and you're going to invest in that card, and you're going to be wanting to use it as long as possible, right? So get the card you can afford. That's all I can say. Let's see. Thank you for your videos. Always help me a lot. I'm a Japanese student trying to be an environment artist in the US. So I really want to know how to find jobs from Japan. Please tell me if you could. Excuse me. Okay, so you're a Japanese student currently in the US, I presume, right? Well, first of all, I am very, very fond of Japan. I've been there and I loved it. So yeah, very cool. When it comes to finding work, it's basically what I was just saying. That is, build that network, right? And I cannot say this enough. Network is everything, okay? LinkedIn would be the best option. Make sure you get a good profile, something like ArtStation, and then make sure you got a good LinkedIn page, okay? Let's see. Okay. Begin learning Maya with full dedication. How long will it take to be productive? Well, that depends on what your definition of productive is. But if you mean how long does it take to make something, a couple of days. Shouldn't take too long. Maya Substance Painter is helpful in gaming industries. Well, I don't know if you are aware, but Maya was originally developed for game artists, right? Maya LT to be exact. But yeah, certainly. Suppose I'm sculpting you with the glasses and the t-shirt for game character with realistic texturing. Okay, are you going to do that? That'd be cool. How much would you charge? To me? I have somebody that actually did a contest and won that contest where he did a model of me. So I have a 3D model of myself. But if you had to do that, kind of depends on your skill set, but I would say, I don't know, depending on where you live, if I had to do it, I would charge maybe something like $2,500. Let's see, 3Ders spend a lot of time at the computer. Do you have any health advices or good practices? Yes, of course. Well, first of all, because I'm freelance, I do a lot more than just sit behind the PC, right? But yeah, exercise, do other things, ride your bike to work, any of that stuff, right? That's what I would do. Do I know any good studios in Malaysia? How do you look about those studios? I don't know any studios in Malaysia, to be honest. Okay, so Rick is saying, anybody here wanting to follow me on Instagram? Well, that's really cool because that is how you network, people. Really good. Did I learn some of the Japanese language while I was there? Very, very, very limited. And if I tell you what I have learned, I'd probably butcher the language and sound ridiculous. But basically, you know, the thank you and please and that kind of stuff. So yeah, but it's an amazing and wonderful country. I studied 3D for 2 years at school, but I have many backlogs, so can't get an internship without degree. I would rate myself 5 out of 10 3D modeling animation. Let me read this again. You have backlogs, so you can't get an internship. What do you mean by backlogs? So you studied it for 2 years. I mean, at the end of the day, if you have the experience and you have the work and you can do the work, that should be sufficient enough to get hired, okay? Just as an FYI, guys, we have about another 4 minutes until a full hour, and I have an appointment that I need to get to. So we're going to do 4 more minutes, okay? Right. Let's say there's the Streamline Studios. They're third-party studio that make assets for games. Okay, cool. Right, let's do one. Yeah, we'll do one more question, okay? Okay, so backlogs, you mean failed projects. Well, the thing is, projects, if you learn something from doing a project, it's never a failed project, right? Maybe you didn't complete it, but you certainly learned something from it. So in that sense, it's absolutely not a failure, okay? Okay, let's do one more question, guys. And again, don't forget to check out the Facebook page. Am I gonna do any in-depth animation tutorials? Well, first of all, thank you for being on the live stream. And as you can see, he has this cool little MH next to his name, which means that he is a channel member. And thank you so much for your support. Am I going to be doing in-depth animation tutorials? Well, the thing is, I am a prop modeler, right? So any animation that I do is related to props. So doors opening and closing and cars moving and that kind of stuff. I don't typically do character animation, right? So the ones that I do are prop related. Let's see, a couple of people talking to each other. Another question, you know, you're a legend. Thank you all. Thank you so much, Rick. Really appreciate that. Okay. All right. So one more question, guys. Anyone? You guys seem to have your own conversation going on right now, which is cool. And yeah. All right. Portfolio question. How many pieces are enough? Okay. We'll take that as the last question. All right. Okay. So in a portfolio, what is the goal of a portfolio? A portfolio is there to do one thing. That is to show people what your skills are, right? So if you put up 50 models and you have like beauty passes or final renders, they don't really know what you did, right? What does your mesh look like? What is your UV mapping skill set and so forth? So if you have 3 projects, but you show everything, you did the concept sketch, you did the blockout phase, you did some UV passes, you showed some texture maps, you showed your light setup, all of that stuff, right? Then they have a much better understanding of what your process is, how you work, how clean you work, how efficient you work. That's what they want to know, right? If you put up 500 models of whatever, and I have no idea how you got there, what software you use, what you did, what your process is, what's the point, okay? All right, guys, that's it for me. As always, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I had a lot of fun. I hope you guys did as well. Check out the 10-part video series that I'm working on. I did the first one yesterday, for the next 5 weeks or so, there's going to be 2 every week, right? And it's going to be a lot about the industry, contracts, clients, sales, marketing, all of that stuff, right? So hopefully I'll see you guys there. Okay. Thank you so much, and see you guys next time. Bye.